Hey there, don't adjust your TV set. Don't adjust your screen. Don't adjust your Chromecast. This is This Week in Google. Leo's not here, but don't go away. Stick around. We've got Gina Trapani, of course. We have Aaron Newcomb. I have a rant, I tell you, about Verizon. And we talk about Google and Twitter and IPOs and Ev Williams and all kinds of stuff. So don't go away. Stay right here. All that coming up on This Week in Google.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com.
This is This Week in Google, episode 216, recorded on September 18, 2013. Verizon, tell hell.
This Week in Google is brought to you by LegalZoom.com. Visit LegalZoom.com for affordable legal solutions you can trust. LegalZoom's not a law firm, they're better. You can get self-help services at your specific direction or speak to a legal plan attorney to get your questions answered and get ongoing advice. Visit LegalZoom.com and use promo code TWIG to get $10 off at checkout.
It's time for This Week in Google and Android and Twitter and psychotic rants and everything that we want. Unfortunately, there's no Leo here this week. He's having a wonderful vacation on some gondola singing and having pizza. But we do have Gina Trapani, the wonderful, magnificent Gina. Hello, Gina.
Hey, great to be here. That was a good intro, Jeff. You can tell we've been doing this for a while, but that delivery was as if Leo were here.
And we are both relieved and delighted to have Aaron Newcomb in the studio, so it doesn't look so strange. There
That's
he is,
right.
a real human being. You can pinch him. His flesh is normal tone. He's real. He's
That's
Aaron.
right. I'm a rose between two thorns. I mean, a thorn between two roses. No, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
And we have Chad, of course, in the control seat. Thank goodness, so when we mess up. Good to see you, Chad, even though we don't see you. Show yourself, Chad. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Sorry, it took a little bit.
I like the
Sorry,
green
I
shirt,
messed you up.
the red hair. It's a good
Christmassy.
great holiday. Yeah, it's good as Christmassy.
And Chad was going to show us Leo's environs.
Yeah, this is what Leo's up to.
Lisa was taking pictures from, isn't that nice? Looks a little chilly, though.
We're clearly having way more fun here.
Oh,
Yes,
of course. Yeah. Who wants to be there? Look at those
Yeah, look at
buildings.
that.
They're so beautiful
Cold and old and
yeah.
not at all interesting.
Musty.
Yeah. Man, what kind of camera does Lisa have? That's a good shot.
Yeah. If these
is
are on
good.
her
It's good.
cell phone, I'm going to be really impressed.
I believe she's using the Olympus OMD camera.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
So bye, Leo. Bye, Lisa. We miss you, but what the heck? Well, life will go on without you. Here we are. And this week I got some good news, I thought. I got my Nexus 7 LTE. I've been waiting for it for weeks. I've been waiting for it to go on sale. I finally got to order it last week. It didn't arrive before the show, and here it came on Friday. And I was
And
so
all
happy
your
to
dreams came
open it
true,
up.
right, Jeff?
No!
Here we go. Watch out.
All your dreams came true, Jeff. You waited so long for this tablet to buy it, to get it. You have it now. This is it. This is what you've been hoping for. I know you're a picky guy. You have very high standards. You have very specific things that you want, and now it's in your hands. What's wrong?
How's that LTE working?
Yo, you're crazy. You're cruel. So, I am going psychotic on Verizon because Verizon will not hook up my Nexus LTE. Now, you remember when it was announced months ago, Google said it was going to work. The first device that was going to work on AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon on LTE. Wow, there was the slide. See, incoming weeks, Verizon, right there. And so I walk into the Verizon store on Saturday and I say, hi, I want to give you more money. I want to add this to my shared data collection there, right? Well, one snotty little smart-ass clerk came over and said, you can't, it doesn't work, you can't. I said, no, you don't understand. I looked up things on them. I said, look, Verizon LTE this device. Yes. So I got a nice clerk, and I got a manager over as I glared at the other clerk. And they tried to put in the IMEI for this device. Bzzz, wouldn't take it. Bzzz, wouldn't take it. All around. So they said, well, maybe it's just not ready yet. And I said, oh, they've had months. How ridiculous. But this happened with my Chromebook Pixel, too, where I went in and tried to get the deal, the $10 a month deal that they had, and it wasn't in a SKU in there. And I figured, okay, so they messed up big old Verizon. Well, they're not rich enough, but fine. I have them call Verizon HQ. They try to do something. They can't do it either. But I figure, okay, this is frustrating. I'm mad, but I leave calmly. I leave with a smile on my face. I say, thanks for your help, guys. I get back home, and of course, I go to Twitter, and I say, oh, VZW support. I need your help again. Can you get my device hooked up? Because I want to be a happy customer. I wait until days, and then I get this response. You can put it back up again, Chad. I'm excited you got your Nexus 7, but not all LTE tablets are created equal. It's not part of our lineup and can't be activated. I'm letting that sit there like the turd it is. So I have psychotic fits all around, and then people remind me that Verizon got the LTE spectrum, C block as it's called, or block C rather, in the 700 megahertz band, on the condition, which Google managed to push into the spectrum auction, the condition that it be open. And Chad, if you could go back to, and you see that first block quote, that it must be offered. No licensee licensees quote shall not deny, limit, or restrict the ability of their customers to use the devices and applications of their choice on the licensee's C block network, except insofar as there's technical problems or other regulations or statutes. Right? No problem. Well, this is a device that has been approved by the FCC. This is an LTE device. It works on AT&T. It works on T-Mobile. And I have a SIM for T-Mobile, by the way, because it came with the device. Nice deal, 1 month free. Thank you very much. Everybody's saying, why don't you just hook up T-Mobile? Well, because, number one, I have a shared device account on Verizon. Thanks to my Chromebook Pixel. Google, how could you have made this a Verizon-only device? My family has their iPads on Verizon. What can I do about that? And so it's going to cost me more if I use this on T-Mobile or something else. And plus, there's just the justice of it. The justice of it. By God, Verizon, you will connect my Nexus 7. So I go around. I'm about to end this here. I go around and around and around. I go a lot on Twitter. A lot of folks come in. Huge response on Google Plus and on Twitter to this. People saying, yeah, why don't you learn? Verizon sucks. Verizon's awful. Go to T-Mobile. T-Mobile's better. And I keep on saying, no, I'm going to force them into it. And then nice folks at Free Press sent me their complaints to the FCC more than a year ago. And last July, the FCC had a consent decree against Verizon for $1.25 million because Verizon at the time was forcing Google to take applications that had tethering out of the Play Store. That's not open. And so Verizon was told, you have to do this. And Verizon said, oh, yes, we will. And when Google had complained about Verizon's behavior and sent a very tough letter, Verizon got back and said, oh, Google, how can you? You're just being catty. No. We're going to be open. Of course we're going to be open. Look at all the ways we're going to be open. I tried to find that full post, which had been quoted on Ars Technica, but of course, Verizon has erased it. So this goes on and on and on, around and around and around. I then get another tweet from Verizon saying, once again, or the technical equivalent thereof. And so today I wrote and sent a formal complaint to the Federal Communications Commission Enforcement Division saying, go after them, bastards. And so I'm not going to rest. I am not going to rest until we bring Verizon to justice, because this was the whole point of the notion of openness, is that we have the choice. We have the control. And Verizon, take that.
Good for you, Jeff. Good for you. I love that you wrote a formal letter or complaint, because, you go back and forth on Twitter, but it's 2013 to hell.
Yeah. I want to rename it Del Hell to Tell Hell now. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's galling, and the attitude they have. So Verizon PR didn't respond to me for days, and then finally, after I posted it, they came back and they sent me a link to their certification requirements. But the problem is, if I go buy a phone here that's unlocked and on GSM, and I go to Europe, all I have to do is put a SIM in it, and it works. There's no certification. There's no this. There's no that. I've taken my Nexus 4 to Europe before, it was sold there, and no problem. It just works. That's the point of having an open standard, which is what GSM and LTE are, as
exactly.
friends on Twitter have said.
That's exactly right, Jeff. I mean, these are protocols, right? I mean,
right.
All you have to say is I adhere to the protocol, right? So I've enabled the chip in my device adheres to whatever the standard is, whatever the protocol is, and it should just work. That's why these things exist. That's the whole reason people do these things, come up with these protocols, and there should be no question about it, right? And I think that's T-Mobile's whole value prop, right? Is bring your own device, just come and it should
right.
work, and use us, and don't worry about Verizon and all this crap that they send your way. The other thing is, I wonder how much of this is because they don't have crapware loaded on the Nexus 7. I mean, I wonder if they're trying to hold up to see if they can get.
Aaron, the second tweet I got from Verizon support when they said, no, it can't be activated, they said, here's a link to all the nice things we'll sell you instead of the thing that you brought. So that's consumer fraud. That's bait and switch. That's a big problem. And by the way, when they say it can't be activated, that is a bald-faced lie, Verizon, because I did take the SIM out of my Chromebook Pixel. I did put it into the Nexus 7 LTE, and guess what? Boom-o, it does work. So it's not a question of it can't work on the network. It's a question of Verizon won't let it work on the network. And this is Verizon's control.
It looks like Verizon posted a statement about this today. Virgil just posted it in the chat room. I put it under your rant on the rundown, Jeff. Statement on Verizon wireless device certification. The Google Nexus 7 is not yet a Verizon 4G LTE certified device, though it entered our process in August, and we expect it to be certified shortly. Once the device is certified, we will work with Google to enable the device to be activated on a 4G LTE network.
You see, that's such a bald-faced lie right there, because, again, it already works on the network, because that's the standard, as Aaron just said. You can put it in there. The thing that Verizon won't do is give me a SIM and put it on my account. So there's no matter of certification here. That's horse poopy.
Yeah, they're saying that their testing protocol is the most rigorous of any carrier, and it's focused on guarding the safety and security of their network, done by third-party labs. It takes 4 to 6 weeks. Interesting. Plot thickens.
4 to 6 weeks. So what did you guys say about it on Android last night?
Oh, we were relishing the thought of your rant today. I was promoting Twig because I said you get to hear about Jeff's LTE experience, and we pulled up your post on the show.
I thought I was rather reasonable. I kept a less than usual pink face in the whole matter. Don't you think?
that was good. It was a good one. It was a good one. I love that you filed a formal complaint with the FCC, and I bet that this statement by Verizon, it looks like it was published today, the 18th. It doesn't have a time. Yes. It was absolutely prompted by that.
Did you guys look at the certification process that they
take a look at it? It's ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, so they have if you go to that link that you just put in there, Gina, and then click on and go down under the certification process. Go to that.
OpenNetwork.Verizon.net, right?
And then under the little wrench there's certification process. That's what I'm looking at right now.
Yes.
View our certification process. So they've got 4 steps, right? Review, pre-certification, which is conditional. What does that mean? Then they've got certification, which they test rigorously in our labs, but they say they can test the device live over our network and see if it works. And then look at the last one. This is what I was getting at before. Go to market. Why do they need go to market in a technical certification? We build external and internal awareness of your device through joint public relations and the use of the Verizon certification logo, training our sales teams, and listing your device in the device showcase. So what they're saying is all of that stuff has to be done before it's technically certified. We have to train our sales teams and do all this stuff. I mean, that's a bunch. I understand 1, 2, and 3. I understand review, pre-certification, and certification. I don't understand why they need go to market to say that this is technically certified.
But it's been pointed out to a lot of people and me. If it's a CDMA device, which is what Verizon normally is, of course, then it has, as someone explained to me on Twitter, I'm sorry I can't give you credit because I can't remember your silly Twitter handle, that has root access to the device. It is a security matter. But as you said a few minutes ago, Aaron, this is a protocol. This is an open standard protocol. So I could go make a phone at my workbench, and as long as I do it to the standards and I put a SIM in, it's going to work. Verizon can't stop that. And that's the irony of all this. Verizon doesn't understand that they've entered an open world. This is the first time they've really worked. This is the first time they've faced, I think, an open GSM device on their network. And this was the condition. I can't repeat this often enough. This was the condition of them winning the auction to get the LTE 700 megahertz C block spectrum that they got. And remember that Google entered into that auction not to win, but to put the pressure on to have the assurance that open devices would work. Why? Because clearly Google saw this very day coming. And here's the day here. Now, mind you, there's another issue here. Google has been silent about this. I'm a little upset about that. I've emailed Google PR, but of course the problem is that Google, love them dearly, have a show about them, wrote a book about them. The one time they get in trouble is when they do deals with telcos. And they've done devil's deals with Verizon, and I'm sure they don't want to piss off Verizon too much, but what's happening here is Verizon and Google are tweaking each other, and we are stuck in the middle.
Yep. It puts users in a pinch. Absolutely.
So,
well, can you could pop in the T-Mobile SIM and get your first free month. And in theory, if what Verizon is saying is true, which I know you don't think it is true, but while you wait for a response to your official complaint and while Verizon purportedly goes through its certification process, maybe by the time your free month is up, it'll work.
Yeah, and I've thought of doing that, but right now I'm trying to stay true to the principle of this. I'm just going to keep on forcing Verizon to do what they're supposed to do under the law. And other people have said, well, if you just take a SIM out of something else and put it in there, it works. Well, it's fine, but then my
then you don't have a SIM in your Pixel. Yeah.
Now they also the nice guy in the store said, well, the only workaround I can really do is I could try to get a SIM going in a phone and put it in there. But then the problem is that in the billing system, I'd be paying $40 a month instead of $10 a month for adding it.
Right.
So this is all about business conditions and Verizon control. It has nothing to do with technology, certification, any of that. AT&T and T-Mobile are not idiots. They have much experience with GSM, much more than Verizon. They are happily running this. Now, Google, by the way, when it came out with this device a week ago, they sold it with a T-Mobile SIM. That lasted about a week. And then they took it down for a day, or for part of a day, and everybody got suspicious. Then it went back up, and a bit later, they offer it now without a SIM, with the T-Mobile SIM, or with an AT&T SIM. But notice, not a Verizon SIM. So here I am. I'm trying to give Verizon business that Google is promoting to go to others. I'm trying to give them money. And the only thing that's happening here is in some freakish, horrible, anal control game that this corporation has to not let customers ever win anything. Verizon, the truly evil company, the company that hands over all your metadata, the company that, by the way, we found out this week from The Guardian, phone companies never even tried to protest handing all of our data over to the NSA. A Verizon executive this week also called Google and Microsoft and Yahoo and company grandstanders for fighting the NSA for our rights. This is a company that does not give a damn about us as customers. This is a company that still thinks it's Ma Bell and has a monopoly and can tell us to go blow. Well, guess what, people? We've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, we've got fax machines. Yeah, I had to fax it to the FCC, and we are not going to rest.
Good for you, Jeff.
Best of right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Right
so that's
there.
anything else to say about that rant? Anything in the brilliant in the chat room going?
Well, I think the only thing in the chat room that I noticed as you were talking is there is the only legal out they have from what you were saying is that there is a clause in there that says if a device could harm the network, then they can. So then that's their claim.
But they're going to then there's a burden of proof on that.
Yes.
There's a burden of proof to show it harms the network, and it's not harming AT&T. It's not harming T-Mobile. It's not harming GSM networks around the world, where of course it was available before it was available here, which was the subject of another rant. Why France had it and we didn't. Maybe I now understand why. Maybe this has been a behind-the-scenes thing. I don't know. I am eager for Google to say something about this in public. I've gone to their public policy people and to their PR people, and we'll see what comes out, and I'll report all of this.
Good for you. Yeah, good for you. Yeah, forget that T-Mobile SIM. Stick to the principle. Let's put the screws to them.
Yeah.
Have you? Has anyone else? Have you found anyone else on Twitter or just sort of out and about complaining about the same thing? Have you been able to sort of get?
I've found people. I found a lot of people who did a few things. Some who just took a SIM from another device and before I did it showed to me that no, Jeff, this works, and they demonstrated it to me very quickly. So that
nice.
In fact, while I was in the Verizon store, I went to Twitter immediately while I was there, and I said, I'm having this problem. Anybody know anything? And immediately somebody came back and said, well, I just got the device. I took the SIM out of another device, put it in there. Oh, it works, Jeff. So I got to be able to say to Verizon, no, this works on your network. Here, look, here's the proof.
That's amazing.
That's the beauty of all this, which also, by the way, always comes back to the power of Leo, to the power of Twit, because I don't have those kind of followers there except for this wonderful show and network. So that worked. A lot of people on Google Plus have been saying, I was thinking about getting put on Verizon. I'm not doing that now. And a surprising number of people, Gina. And this is a trend that I haven't seen. Leo's been talking about how, T-Mobile's pretty good. T-Mobile's good around here. Use T-Mobile. It's fine. And what was happening on Google Plus is the number of people who said, to heck with Verizon, not just because you have the SIM. T-Mobile's actually good. They have unlimited data plans. They care about people. I have a good customer service. It was like 90% in favor of T-Mobile in this whole discussion, 10% of T-Mobile complaints, where it's the opposite, where it's 95% complaining about Verizon and a few hangouts trying to defend Verizon.
So were people saying, I'm just going to switch because I don't want to deal with these people at all? I'm going to switch to T-Mobile in general?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
And that's
Good.
where, you got to follow the money, right? That's what's going to eventually get Verizon to take notice of this, is if people start leaving. I think that, thank goodness for Jeff and his reach, right? His virtual reach out through the ether, so to speak, to people. Because if it were just like a normal person that had this problem, no one's going to notice, right? So thank goodness Jeff's making it, because let's face it, how many customers are actually trying to do this? Probably not that many at this point, right? So it's not like someone pulled one of Verizon's key devices and says, hey, this doesn't work, and it affects, 80 million people, right? So this probably affects a small subset, and it's the small minority that doesn't have any voice, really. So thank goodness for Jeff. Thank goodness you're raising this up.
It's a very small concern. It's a very small audience for this. But yeah, there's some level of responsibility if you have this platform like Twig and the blogs and such, that rather than just surrendering, because some people said, just give up. And I said, no, I can't. I won't do that. So on we go. All right, I need a break. I need something happy. I need positive change in the world. You know what I need? I need a change log.
The Google change log.
We've got a few new things in the Googleverse this week. First, we'll kick it off with Google Plus gets new photo editing tools with Snapseed. So while you're viewing your own photos on Google Plus, click on the edit button. You're going to get new features like auto enhance, which we've seen already, the auto awesome. Selective adjust makes you let edits to specific parts of the image, and filters like vintage and drama. You got to have your filters. These are all powered by Snapseed, which was originally a really cool iPad app. And later an Android app, and now we're seeing it kind of on the desktop for the first time. And yeah, Chad is showing us some of the new features there in the video. There's selective adjust, very nice, very cool. The only drawback using all these features in Google Plus requires Chrome, but everyone listening to this show probably already uses Chrome, so that won't be a big deal. Let's see.
It's really neat. I've used it. One of the things that struck me as odd is that there's some missing basic things. Like if I want to put a line on the photo or put some text on a photo or any of that, I couldn't find any of that. It was a bit odd that there were some things missing.
Right. So you can't actually like annotate something or draw on it.
Not that I could find, unless the chat room will correct me within 30 seconds. And if they don't, then I take it as victory.
Yeah, I haven't tried that. Most of the stuff on Google Play, I normally do that with screenshots, and I use like Sketch or something else like that for that. But I haven't tried to do a whole lot of annotation or text on top of images, and that seems like a very basic feature. It surprises me that that's not available.
Yeah, it's there. It's in Google Plus. I think it's maybe not,
Aaron, where?
If you go to Google Plus and click on one of your photos, because they rolled this out a while back because people wanted to do memes. Yeah, exactly. Like memes and things like that.
Exactly.
So I know that I've done it before on Google Plus. Let me just
but I think it's gone now.
Oh.
That's what I'm trying to say.
That's odd. I'm going to try it right now. Go ahead, Gina. I'm going to try this. I'll report back.
Okay, cool. Google Voice made a little change to secure your voicemail access. So you can call your Google Voice in order to retrieve your Google Voice voicemail, but now you need to either do that from a phone number, which you have registered with Google Voice, or you need to provide that phone number or a PIN number when you call from another phone. You can create a PIN lock that's up to 10 digits long, or you'll have to type in one of your registered phone numbers in when you check your voicemail. Google Wallet got a really nice upgrade that makes it much more widely available across Android devices and versions, and you don't need NFC to use it anymore. So while it'll be available for all devices running Android 2, 3, and up, regardless whether or not they got NFC, that's because Google has kind of broadened what Wallet can do. It's adding in direct money transfer. So with the new update, you can transfer cash to anyone with an email address in the U.S. once you've linked a bank account to the service. This makes a lot of sense. Of course, Google wants to get more accounts, more active Google Wallet accounts going on. So I've had pretty limited interactions with Wallet. I mean, I use it because I sell an app through the Play Store and some of the back end is there. But now that you don't require NFC and it goes back to older Android versions, I'm sure we'll see Wallet become a little more a little more widely available, and it'd be nice to have an alternative to PayPal, which
when
so
you
many
get
people
revenue, Gina,
don't like.
Does it go? Does it like PayPal goes into the PayPal account? In the case of this, does it go into a Google account or does it go straight into your bank?
I set it up to go straight into my bank. It used to be Google Checkout, and then Google Checkout and Wallet merged. So I have to go into Wallet to see sort of transactions and purchases and refunds and that kind of thing. But I do have it set up, and honestly, I set it up so long ago, I don't even remember the details. But it does do a direct deposit into my directly into my bank account. So I did link my bank account, and I've linked my credit card to Google Wallet as well, so that I can make purchases. That's make purchases in the Play Store.
Cool.
Finally, Google Alerts, which is one of those lesser known Google products, but something I really like. It's especially good for ego searches if you want to see when your name shows up on the web. It lost the option to deliver your search results for things that you've set to get alerted about as an RSS feed. It lost that option when Google Reader got shut down, but that option has quietly gotten added back into the product. So when you go to Google Alerts, you can set up an alert for a certain term. So if I wanted to see every time somebody mentioned the word twig, that's probably a bad example. Maybe this week in Google or Twit on any web page, I can get alerted via a feed, an RSS feed that feature's come back, or you can do it via email as well. But that feed option is back. So that's good news for those of us who are still using RSS readers.
What feed reader are you guys using nowadays?
I've been using the old reader. I don't use it very often, but I use the old reader. Oh. And actually, for a while there, it went away, and then it came back. Yeah, it's still around. I don't use it very much, though. I honestly get my news from social.
Yeah.
In fact, I used to use NetVibes, and I used to plug in all my RSS feeds into NetVibes. But I haven't used it much lately. I mean, ever since Google Plus came out, I've been more and more shifting towards getting my stuff on social. And other ways like Reddit. So I use Reddit a lot more than I do RSS feeds from various sites. I'll just subscribe to a Reddit like, r/Android or r/open source or Linux or whatever I'm interested in. And I find that that's a easier way to get that kind of information because it's filtered, right? It's not just everything that a particular site wants to put up there. I do go to TechMeme a lot, but for that I just go to the website. I guess I don't use RSS feeds as much as I used to.
What are you using right now, Jeff?
Feedly's looking very good. On Android, Feedly's beautiful. It's really well designed, I think. And it's actually so well designed, I'm kind of coming back to a little more RSS now. Mm-hmm. Right, Aaron, did you have any success finding how I can ruin photos?
I stand corrected. They did remove that feature. I guess I hadn't tried it since the new photo editing stuff rolled out. So it is gone. In fact, I found a bunch of posts on Google groups, on the help forums and things like that, people kind of ranting about, one person even said, this is why I even use Google Plus in the first place, is so that I can add text to my photos, which I don't know, I kind of find hard to believe. But so yeah, people are upset about this. And sure enough, it's gone. I couldn't find a way to get text back. So you're right, Jeff.
How are memes going to survive? What are we to do? Oh, no.
I know.
We end up the changelog on a sad note after all.
The confession bear will be awfully silent. There will be no confessions for Confession Bear. He'll just be sitting next to a log. I really want to confess something, but I can't.
Sometimes I feel like Google makes changes to things and just sort of is like, oh, let's just take that out for now. And then it kind of, it'll pop back in. It'll be a changelog entry in a few weeks. It's like, oh, text is back. I just feel like things change so much that they move stuff around. It happened with the Play Store, too. They took out a bunch of features and then sort of slowly added them back in. And I don't know if that's about them just figuring out, how many, what people are using or what.
I wonder if you can go into the Picasa Web Tools. Is that still around? Can I go into Picasa Web Tools and
maybe
use their tools to edit it, and then it would show up on Google Plus? I don't know. I'll have to try it.
Well, Gina, life is an A/B test.
Life is an A/B test, isn't it? Ain't that the truth?
Is there anything else in the changelog, madam?
That's all I got.
All right, on to Google News. I told Gina before the show that this was going to be Explain This to Me, Lucy week, because there's some things I don't understand. For example, one thing I don't understand here is that Google swaps out MySQL and moves to MariaDB. What does that mean?
Okay, so from what I understand, and Aaron, you're gonna have to help me out with this because I know you're into the open source world as well. MariaDB, from what I understand, is a fork of MySQL, which is an open source database engine, and that's managed by another group. And actually, I've heard a lot about MariaDB. I've heard that it's very good. So this means so Google is migrating its MySQL systems over to MariaDB, the Register reported, and this basically allows them to get away from Oracle-backed open source databases. So MySQL is maintained by Oracle. Yeah, exactly. But MariaDB, from what I understand, is a fork of MySQL, so it is based on MySQL.
Right. So what happened here is Sun bought MySQL back before the Oracle acquisition. So when I was working for Sun, they bought MySQL. Which was great. Everybody's like, "Yay!" This is okay. Some of the users were a little upset, but it wasn't Oracle yet, right? So it was like, okay, let's hope and trust that Sun's going to do the right thing with MySQL. And then Oracle stepped in, and people just went, okay, that's it, right? So yeah, MariaDB is a fork of MySQL. It's compatible with MySQL, and I think that what's happened here is MariaDB is fine, and lots of people have been switching. Google's I think Google probably hasn't switched till now because they've been waiting for it to mature, waiting to make sure it's ready for prime time, right? Because you can't just throw things at new software and hope it works. So I think
particularly with the kind of data that Google deals with.
Exactly. So I think that this is a huge boost for MariaDB. I'm sure they're going to be talking about this all over the place because what it does is it tells people, hey, look, if Google trusts MariaDB enough to use it, then you can feel free to go ahead and switch from MySQL to MariaDB too. So, this isn't the only place where this is being done. The same thing happened with OpenOffice, right? Oracle said, hey, we got this from Sun and we don't really want to support it. We're not sure what's going to happen. And the user community was really freaked out. And so LibreOffice came about. And now LibreOffice is really the de facto, open platform for documents and presentations and things like that. So this isn't without precedent. And MariaDB keeps getting more and more support. So I think users are going to continue to switch from MySQL to MariaDB. And I can talk about that now because I don't work for Oracle anymore.
It's a huge PR win for MariaDB. That's a really good point. And MariaDB is backed by Monty Wiedenes. Sorry, Monty. I'm sure that I messed up your last name, but he spearheaded the original development of MySQL. So you have sort of one of the original MySQL developers there. And Google has about 5 people working part-time on MariaDB bug fixes right now, which is that's 5 people part-time. 5 Googlers
so
part-time.
Is this more to get away
good.
from Oracle, or is this are there some functional reasons why this is better?
No, I think I think it's mostly to get away from Oracle. I mean, there could be some functionality that they're looking forward to in MariaDB to implement, but I don't think Google wants to be tied to a licensing structure from another company. And plus, it's just good community involvement. I mean, 5 developers part-time contributing patches to an open source platform like this, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it seems like the reasons are probably more political than technical, and I think that the version of MySQL that they were running was probably heavily modified for Google's purposes. I mean, Google's dealing with problems that 99.9% of MySQL users probably aren't butting up against. So I'm sure that they're sort of contributing some of those patches as well to MariaDB. But that's great for everyone. That's great for the community. But it does sound like they just wanted to get away from Oracle, which makes sense.
Or is this a Betty Crocker moment? Tell me there's a real Maria.
I actually don't know where the name.
That's a good question. I don't.
It is a good
stands
question.
For something. I'm sure.
I'm sure the chat room will tell us in a minute. I can't remember either what it stands for, or why it was called Maria. I know that they had we had some folks from MariaDB on Floss Weekly, and I I had thought that right around this time frame that Leo might have done a triangulation. I don't know. I'm kind of looking around this. I don't know if anyone's here that knows. There may have been a triangulation with Monty.
Of course, someone in the chat room is yelling at us because it's not MySQL, it's MySQL.
I know. Old habits die hard.
MariaDB is named after Monty's younger daughter, Maria.
There we go.
Oh, that's good. I like that it's a human touch.
Yeah, I agree. It's so much better, nerds, to name your stuff after after a real human thing and not a crazy acronym. I'm really happy
now
that Maria's
clearly there must be an operating system of the future named ETA.
Oh, clearly. Or at least a web app. I don't know if I'm going to waste my time on an operating system, but sure.
And every birthday could go up like a revision, right? So 1.0, 2.0.
Yes. In fact, Etta has reached 1.0 today. She's 1 year old today.
Oh,
No
your
way.
kid is it? Oh, Mazel Tov. Why didn't you tell us that at the beginning of the show? What a happy note.
No. Yeah, so this time last year it was a Tuesday, so it was the night before Twig, and I hadn't told you guys that my wife is pregnant. So I was at the hospital, and the doctor saying this is going to happen tonight, which it wasn't supposed to. We were supposed to have another 5 weeks, and I was in a joyful panic. And then I think I emailed you guys like I can't make the show tomorrow because I got some stuff going on. I'll tell you more later.
Yeah, I was on that episode as well. We were all like, "Oh, congratulations!" Yeah.
Oh, this is happiness.
Cool. Well, congratulations again.
Etta 1.0. Thank
Happy
you very
birthday.
much. I will pass.
Tell me her birthday cake didn't say Etta 1.0, did it?
Oh, of course it's going to say that. Of course it is.
Of course, you know what happens then as the kid gets older and they realize what the version numbers mean. They're going to be looking for like minor revisions, like, come on, it's 1.5, or it's 4.5.
Right. As soon as she starts speaking full sentences, it'll be 1.2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going on. It's those moments where I'm 5.5, I'm 5 3/4.
Right, exactly.
Which lasts for quite a while. I was at an event some years ago. You can tell me years ago in a second. And it was a Murdoch corporate event. I was brought in to moderate Nick Denton and Mark Zuckerberg. And one of the executives of News Corp came up afterwards and she was laughing. She said, I just asked Mark Zuckerberg how old he is. And he said, I'm going to be 23. I found that amusing. I'm 22 and 7/8.
Oh, Zuck.
You have to have a special birthday for Etta's pie birthday, I think.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yes, Pie Day and her pie birthday are going to be
I think
ripe
so.
with
I
pie.
think so.
Indeed.
Well, since you mentioned contributing to open source, this is a minor note, but both Google and Samsung have soared into the top 10 Linux contributors. I don't think there's much of great surprise in there, but it's a pat on the back for them, right?
Yeah, that is nice. That made me feel good. I mean, yeah, it's good. It's good to see these companies with a lot of money and a lot of resources contributing back to something that everyone can use. I mean, I like that the number in this chart that Ars Technica published here is a chart of the company and the rank of how many changes they've contributed and what the percentage is. I love that the first company is none. Like right that like it's people with no affiliation are making the most changes to Linux. That's awesome.
That's the community.
That's the community, right? That's OSS at work, and Red Hat, of course, is the top one. But it was good to see Samsung and IBM up here, although IBM's above them, which is interesting. Wow. I think that Microsoft's contributions have definitely fallen off. But yeah, a lot of these, the suspects you would expect: Qualcomm and AMD and the Linux Foundation, of course, NVIDIA.
Yeah, a lot of these companies are the ones that make the drivers. So for either their products or somebody else's, using their chips and other products and things like that. They a lot of these companies have committed to developing driver open firmware or something that goes in the Linux kernel because they want people to use their products, including people that run Linux. And a lot of these are also in the embedded space, which a lot of the embedded products run Linux. So this list really makes sense, and I think that's why Samsung and Google are a little bit different because these are device makers. They don't necessarily, they use the chips that all these other companies make. They don't necessarily make them themselves. Although Samsung, you could argue that they do. But even inside a Samsung device, you're probably looking at a Broadcom chipset or something like that, and that's where typically those drivers get written. In fact, Broadcom's on the list as well. Also, I mean, just to play both sides of the fence, Oracle is on this list as well, down below Samsung and Google, and just above Broadcom. So I don't want to completely bash Oracle. If they're committing to open source, bravo, thank you very much. But yeah, so this is really interesting to see the device users, the software, pure software writers, not necessarily for devices, make it up this far in the list.
So speaking of things Google is changing, how's that for a slick segue? This is a big deal in my world. Google Ad ID could replace the cookie. And I'm not sure I understand how this works. I haven't seen enough detail at all on this, but the idea is that it becomes a new identifier that becomes anonymous both ways. So it's anonymous. The user is better anonymized and given the assurance of anonymity in tracking for advertising. And then there's some reference in the story that the advertiser is also more anonymous, which wouldn't be so great because you want to know who the parties are who are doing this. I have no idea how this is going to work. I don't know what the promise really is, but I think, as I've often said on the show, media, technology, and advertising companies all blew it by letting the cookie be demonized by the Wall Street Journal. It's out to get you. And so an improvement on tracking that gives greater assurance of consumer control would be a great thing. Do either of you guys have any idea how this could work?
Unfortunately, the source of this Engadget article is USA Today, which I don't have very high expectations of. My first question is, what is the technical implementation of this? Is the implementation going to be similar to cookies? If not, is it going to be a browser standard? It has to be, right? But USA Today doesn't have a lot more information about how this is going to work. But this might be more of a branding problem. Like the cookie has a huge branding problem, as you pointed out, Jeff. I wonder if Google can make the ad ID the anti-cookie. This is an anonymous, safe, secure way for you to get better ads anonymously. I don't know how many consumers are really concerned about getting better ads. But besides people who kind of think about it like we do, but if the ad ID could be, kind of positioned as the anti-cookies, the anonymous secure way to track you or to watch you, that there's an opportunity there. And I wonder how different the technical implementation will be. And I do hope it's an open standard and not just an Android Chrome thing.
Yeah, there's a CNET article about this too, and they bill it as a proprietary identifier.
A proprietary identifier.
So
proprietary to Google.
Yeah. So I guess they could make it a standard, but they would control the way it worked. Again, this is according to CNET, right? And maybe they got it. Maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe they got the proprietary part wrong. But it seems like it would be in Google's interest to make it as open as possible to encourage adoption, and not make some part of it proprietary to Google.
Right.
Right, because you're both right. USA Today is not exactly our source for technology news.
Yeah, but Engadget did a post based on the USA Today.
Yeah, a lot of them did. But of course, that's what we do in technology now. Is somebody reports something and everybody writes about it as if it's the same, and it's all back to the same source. So right. my fault for not noticing that. By the way, USA Today, just to throw this into the side parenthetically, USA Today is increasing its price to $2. And my smart-ass tweet was that it wasn't worth the effort to bend over at the motel room door and pick it up. I'm not sure it's worth $2, but anyway, just a joke. It's just a joke, folks.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
Joke. Friend of mine's the publisher of it, so I'm just joking, Larry. Just joking. It's so thin, I can shave myself with it.
Oh man!
All right. I'll move on now. I'm gonna get in trouble. So here's another "Explain It to Me, Lucy" story. CyanogenMod, whom Gina often mentions and Leo talks about, and I just let him talk about it. I've never done it. I don't know how to do it. Root? What's root? Is you pull it out of the ground? It's a potato. I don't know what it is. It now is a company with considerable venture capital backing. So what does this mean, guys? What does this enable now? The CyanogenMod has money, and one of the things I saw in the story is they are going to make it easy enough for idiots like me. So what does this bring to the Android world and to CyanogenMod itself, do you think?
This is really interesting. Like a team of Android rockstar developers, including Steve Kondik and Kosh Duda, are now, they got $7 million in VC backing, which is a nice amount of money. They've got a small team. I think they're based in Seattle, and they're going to be making CyanogenMod, which was a weekend project by hackers and enthusiasts for power users who are willing to root and mod their phones. They're making this into a consumer product. This is really, really interesting, Aaron. I'm interested to hear what you think. I mean, for me, it's hard to say. I haven't used CyanogenMod in a while. I've been kind of committed to running the vanilla Google version of Android because I'm interested in Google's direction for Android, because Google has been such a clear leader on the development of Android. But what's interesting to me is that we see now flavors of Android getting developed based off the open source project, which are kind of separate from Google. So we're seeing, we saw that sort of with Amazon and the Kindle, right? But that was very Kindle specific. But now it's CyanogenMod, creating this other mobile operating system that's based on Android. You have Hugo Barra at Xiaomi, the Chinese manufacturer, which also has its own flavor of Android. Now we're starting to see operating systems based on open source Android and customized in different ways. This isn't just like Google Android, the Google version of Android with like an extra skin on top. This is like a different build of Android. And
is that a
this
problem
really,
of fragmentation, as they always say? Does this mean that the world could get too confusing?
That's
new
a
devices and things.
Yeah, I mean that's possible. I mean, it could mean that. It could mean just more choice in the way that Android works. It means that, I think it means that Google's competitive advantage actually is in Google Play services and not in the the bottom layer OS code, right? Google Play services and the Google suite of services that live on top of Android is really where Google's competitive edge is. So you open up a situation where other companies are going to start their own app stores, like Xiaomi has and like Amazon has, and maybe CyanogenMod. Actually, does Cyanogen have its own? Cyanogen does have its own app store, doesn't it?
Really?
Or its own way to get apps. So again, you have the black and white, right? There's more choice, and yet there's sort of the downsides of fragmentation. I don't know, Aaron, what do you think about this?
So personally, I think it's about time, right? Like, I've always wondered why these guys aren't working for Google, and I think they've kind of talked about that in the past, and they're actually they did an AMA on Reddit this morning. The chat room got that link up there. Maybe we can get it up for after the show. But it's I think they've just reached critical mass, right? It's like, look what we can do, right? So when Kush did that, I always say his name wrong. Am I saying it wrong?
It's Kosh.
Kosh, thank you. I always do that. It's just the way it looks. So when Kosh wrote that app for Chromecast, that was like in less than a day or something. I mean, he had something up and working, and it's like that. I mean, that's gold, right? If you've got that kind of talent and you can do those kinds of things, then you need to be looking at ways to bring in more funding and market it. I really like the community aspect of Cyanogen, and there's lots of other. If you go to XDA developers, there's lots of other people in communities working on this kind of stuff. They're not the only name in the game, but they are probably the biggest name in the game, and they've got a lot to offer. And I think people would be willing to pay for some of the services that they could offer. You could put their specific OS. They can make it really easy to put their specific OS on your device and offer support for that. So, hey, I can't make something work. I'm willing to pay $5 a month to be able to call somebody and get it to work. Or, particular apps that help you do something unique on your device that Google's not really doing and all the other manufacturers with their specific OSs aren't doing. They did say, as far as monetization, I'll just read this. It's the number one question right now on the AMA on Reddit. They asked about monetization, and they said, monetization is not an immediate concern, and our investors agree. CyanogenMod has the potential to become an enormous platform play, and to do that, we need to foster and grow the ecosystem. Right now, we just want to build something compelling and grow the user base. Eventually, there are innumerable paths to monetization once we reach economics of scale, licensing our software services to OEMs, building hardware, creating secure enterprise solutions, etc. Creating disruption in a multi-billion-dollar market is enough to make any investor raise their eyebrow. So, and I agree with them. I think that's where they're at. It's just like, hey, we've got this really cool thing. Let's pick it up and run with it. And the fact that they were able to get $7 million, what seems like fairly quickly, I think is evidence that investors would agree with them.
Wow, good explanation, guys. You know what I just decided? when I finally do get my Nexus 7 onto Verizon, I'm going to root it and put on the worst bad new OS I can.
Good for you.
My first bit of advice for Cyanogen: change the name.
Yeah.
Change.
Yes.
Yep.
Pick a better name.
It
Pick a
sounds like
consumer-friendly
a
name.
poisonous fertilizer.
Mm-hmm. And just position. It has to be positioned as. It's still. I still can't explain what Cyanogen is in simple terms. I mean, is this going to be like Android for advanced users? It sounds like it, right? It sounds like this is going to be kind of the build for advanced users, but it needs a better name and it needs a better explanation than modified firmware. Not a lot of people know what that is. I think that they can do really well targeting the power user market, but if they want to extend their reach even more than they already have, and I think 8 million people are running Cyanogen, which is great. I mean that's incredible for something that these guys have done, from what I understand, kind of in their spare time. And there are lots of people doing this, but they have so many years of experience and they spent so much time doing this. They are the premier kind of developers for this type of thing.
Use me again as a proxy for the idiots of the world. And give me the 3 or 4 tweets that explain why someone would want to use a CyanogenMod.
Aaron, I'm gonna.
So the first thing is, the reason you want to use CyanogenMod is to do things that, number one, you don't want to be locked into what a particular vendor says you can do. So you say, well, I don't like Sense, I don't like whatever Samsung's is, I don't like this, I don't like that. I want something that looks like Google, that works, and that I can do things with, and I'm not locked into what the vendor says or the manufacturer says I can or can't do. So that's reason number one, and that's usually where people end up, is like, I really want to do this on my phone, and it says there's a way, but I can't run it because I don't have root. And so then they unlock their phone and they root their phone and they can do what they want to do. That's where most people come to it. I think secondly, it used to be not so much with if you're running a stock Google device, but if you're running one of the other carriers' operating systems that they put on their phones, you want new features right away. So if Google comes out with a new feature or somebody comes out with a new feature, you don't want to wait for Samsung or HTC or LG or whoever it is to implement it. You want to run it right away. And theoretically, you can do that quicker on CyanogenMod or with a stock Google phone now than you could otherwise. Now that picture is somewhat turning around, because now some, like Samsung especially, is developing their own software that's really cool that you might not be able to get that on CyanogenMod. So we'll see where that goes. What else, Gina? What other reasons?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you hit it. Well, getting new releases, new Android releases sooner, but also just, I mean, from what I understand, CyanogenMod gets more new features more quickly, right? Like power user features of like, I just want a quick shortcut to do this, that, or the other thing. Right. So not only just getting a whole new build, but like in general, it sounds like the Cyanogen team listens to power users particularly more closely and is quicker to implement stuff that would suit a more advanced user than Google. Yeah, I mean, even simple things like being able to reboot your phone. Like a lot of phones, even my phone, I'm running a variant of stock Google on here. When I hold down the power button, I get airplane mode and shut down. There's no reboot option. And sometimes what I want to do is I just want to reboot. And so things like that, CyanogenMod puts in by default. Just nice power user. I wouldn't even say it's a power user. It's really just it should be in every phone, right? Just hit the reboot button. Is there
a disadvantage?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, there's things like that. And I think that just with their expertise, this is going to be really interesting to see where they go. But again, they're going to run into some troubles, I think, with the carriers, because the carriers are, I would assume, as they do now, they say, look, this isn't supported. Some devices, very few devices support unlocking. I'm sure they'll say, you know, look, if you run this, it voids your warranty. So there's going to be some roadblocks ahead for CyanogenMod. We'll see where it goes. Yeah, someone in the chat room says old hardware was the reason to run the mod. I mean, it sounds like this is a way to sort of get around limitations. Why this is sort of a thing that you did, kind of an extra. It's just interesting to watch. It'll be interesting to watch them turn this into a legitimate consumer product and how they're going to negotiate.
I mean, all those things strike me as small, whereas if it really becomes the parallel to Android development that will build things that Google doesn't feel like building company. And so if you come along, you know, the next time Amazon can just hire them to write the OS. Maybe, because they do mention OEMs in here in their response on monetization. So that might be an angle. A company that wants to have, you know, corporate devices that work a certain way, you know, they can customize across a whole bunch of devices.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. A few other quick things on Google before we move on. This story struck me as it smelled the sweet smell of BS. Google, or panic, I should say. Google knows many of the world's Wi-Fi passwords thanks to backup defaults on Android devices. Well, yeah. So obviously, when I store passwords for Wi-Fi on my device, whether that's a laptop or whether that's a device, a phone, then there they are. And I guess there's some controversy that Google backs those things up to the cloud. Well, that's a good thing for me because when I change devices, it's still there. No big. Is this just a kind of, am I missing something here? It just strikes me as your random, hey, let's panic the world for this week.
Yeah, I had the same reaction when I read this story. It's like, really? Like, you didn't realize this already? And maybe that's who this is targeted to, is to people that wouldn't normally realize this. But it's not like they're not protecting the data. It's not like they're collecting, like, right. Google's collecting the Wi-Fi passwords and putting them up on some website somewhere for everyone to use. So
Google also knows how many times I use the F word in email. I mean, I know they have that too. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you, Jeff. I didn't really understand why this was such a big deal and why the article made such a big deal out of it without explaining that, all this information is still protected, and it's really for the convenience of our users, and people can turn off the backup function really easily with one click in settings. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of didn't get it either. It smelled like the, oh my God, Chrome saves my passwords, and if I click on the show me what the password is, it'll show it to me story, which also seemed really, really strange. I assume that these backups are encrypted in some way so that
I would assume
they don't
so.
travel over the wire unencrypted. Google can decrypt it on their end, I assume. I don't know. It didn't seem like that big a deal to me.
All right,
but
good. I'm glad we erased that one. Enough of that.
One more thing in here that I don't appreciate is they seem to be playing on people's fears, and specifically, there's like a bunch of stuff at the end of the article. There's like 10 facts or 12 facts or something, and they say here, does NSA know your Wi-Fi password? Android backups may give it to them, and it's like, come on, really? To me, this really strikes of someone just trying to drudge something up and make it a bigger deal than it is. Because
I think we've got to call them on it. I think this kind of techno panic stuff, we have to call them on it because it's too easy, and it's going to end up on here's your tech minute on the morning network news.
Exactly. Exactly. We don't want fear mongering going on here.
No, but it does happen.
Right.
All right.
Google has the keys to everything, everywhere.
And fine. I welcome my new master. If only the master would tell me more often. So I went through, I'm getting my deja vu. I went through weeks of complaining to you and boring you, waiting for my Nexus 7 LTE. Of course, you've now heard the latest chapter at the beginning of the show today. What's the next thing I'm waiting for? The Nexus 5. And the Nexus 4, as everyone knows, the price was reduced drastically, $100, and now they have sold out, and evidently they're not going to be back. So now we have the Nexus 5 rumors going hot and heavy. Any new insight from Android land, Gina?
Tons of rumors. We got like 3D rendering that fans have put together based on that, that snapshot from that video that Google put up, and the FCC documents. Everyone's decided that this LG Nexus 5 is going to happen. There's a rumored date, October 14th, which is less than a month away from now. I got to tell you, it sounds like the Nexus 5. I believe it. We were talking about it last night on All About Android. There's so many rumors and so much speculation and so many sort of morsels being released, and it's going to run KitKat. That's going to have a few different upgrades. It's going to look like that shot in the video. It seems like, given that this week is the iPhone release week, that these are very well-timed rumors and speculation.
Just
so
hold
it would
off, folks, from that plastic phone. Just hold off a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Look what's coming. It makes a ton of sense. The Moto X was not the latest Nexus, right? They're gonna the fact that they reduced the prices of the Nexus 4. The Nexus 4 is now sold out, and they're not going to restock, according to sources close to Google. I've heard. Of course, they're gonna launch a new Nexus, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was exactly on the date that is rumored, which is October 14th, and there you can see Chada's up on the screen. This is a 3D rendering. This is based only on rumors and speculation. This was made by a fan. It was posted on Reddit. But yeah, there it is, folks. It looks just like the one in the picture that we saw in the KitKat video, which I think was one of the sources, and pretty believable, huh?
I can't wait. I can't wait. And I'm not going to use it on Verizon.
I was just going to ask that.
Not going to do it. Not going to happen. All right, here's a weird story before we leave Google land. Google surprises, the moonshot world that it is. Two things happened today. One is that Google announced an investment in Calico, a health and well-being company. At the same time, there's a Time magazine cover just out in which they ask the question, can Google solve death? I think the only next time, the perfect Time magazine cover is Google God? But Chad, if you point that up, you'll see the cover on that one, right? Can Google solve death? And so there's a lot about Sergey and the health concerns and of the company and this and that. It would be, remember they got rid of Google Health about a year ago when Larry took over, or about then I think, and it was never a well-formed concept. It was going to be able to share data, and that's pretty much it. Store your data and then share it with your doctors. But where could Google go with health? That becomes a really interesting piece.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, if you think about, I'm a big proponent of clinical studies. When people say, oh, such and such is related to something else, because we looked at this and, if you buy a pig, you're more likely to smoke cigarettes. It's like, what? So I'm a big proponent of clinical studies. But before you get there, right, and you can actually run tests on people, you have to form a hypothesis. And I think Google is uniquely positioned to provide and to mine some of this data that they're collecting from all of us to give to healthcare professionals or to the healthcare industry to say, hey, look, we're noticing these trends between, people that wear Google Glass and, people that have improved vision or something. I don't think that would happen. It'd probably be the opposite, but something like that. I think they're just uniquely positioned in the industry to be able to serve up some of this data. I don't think they're going to solve death. That's a good headline.
That's a terrible headline.
It catches your eye, but I mean I don't know. I think that's a little far.
Time magazine becomes a parody of itself.
Yeah, exactly. But but I mean, I think the subtitle to that is good, which is the search giant is launching a venture to extend the human lifespan. How do you do that? You make people healthier. That's really what it's all about. So it's about using data to identify trends, to do research, to allow people to understand.
That's really interesting, Aaron. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before, where if we knew all the instances of breast cancer, and could thus perhaps find correlations in an open way and explore that with privacy protected, but with generosity feeding it, then who knows what information we could get. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, I think it was University of Pennsylvania faculty are in a revolt. I saw a story last week because the university went into a new system for healthcare, trying to reduce their costs. One of the things they're doing is they're putting out what really do seem like pretty invasive questionnaires to people, like are you having fights with your spouse, and are you in high debt, and this kind of stuff. Which you say, why should you know this? But the company they hired, without kind of looking at the questionnaire in detail, is trying to find the correlations and express the correlations for things like high stress and thus health problems and thus the money that goes behind it. And if we can get past some of this nervousness about the privacy and actually get to the value of that data, which is something that Google engineers would understand, there really could be life-saving value there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I really like the focus on long-term thinking. Like, I think the media kind of struggles with the tension between Google's kind of spring cleaning short-term focus, or rather Larry Page's, and then the Google X kind of long-term moonshot kind of thinking. There's a great quote in this article, which I might misquote, but basically Larry said, we talk about curing cancer as this like huge, incredible goal, and cancer is this tragic thing, and everyone knows someone who, we've lost to cancer. But if we cure cancer, that basically extends the average lifespan. I think it's by 3 years, which honestly seemed low to me, but okay, let's say it's 3 years. He's like, we can do so much better than that. Like we can add 10, 20 years to people's lives if we think bigger. And there's another part of the piece where he says, driverless cars, if we had taken the time to put the money and the vision into driverless cars 10 years ago, they'd be ready right now, but we didn't. And so we're doing it now, but we're behind, so it's this constant kind of sort of focus on long-term thinking and putting resources and money into things that matter without a focus on short-term monetary gain. And I think that this is Google setting a really good example for for the rest of our industry. Of course, Google has more money in their bank than pretty much any other company in our industry. So there are aren't very many companies that can make this kind of long-term commitment. But I think it's a great example. And if we start to reap the rewards of this kind of long-term thinking and long-term R&D, then I think that investors will be more likely to take a bet on it on smaller companies as well in the future. So I think this is a good thing for our industry.
I think it's a really, really important and good point, and kind of the essence of the show and the essence of what we talk about is why do we admire Google and what makes them different. But I think Aaron's point too is the value of data. Somebody in the chat room just pointed out that I didn't mention the thing at Penn was that people who didn't answer the question would pay, I think, $100 more a month in premiums as a result. But there's an economic value to this data and to acting on it, and we've got to grapple with that as a society. We've got to grapple with ways to not only increase lifespan, but then deal with the costs that are going to come along with that in healthcare, which are crippling. So I talked to the reporter Harry McCracken who did the story for a half an hour, and this is the great thing about a Time Inc. content machine. So we went through all kinds of stuff, all about the moon shots and this and that, and all that ends up in the article is when it came, because this is some rewrite guy who does this, when it came to Larry killing off stuff, he was, quote, ruthless, end quote, said Jeff Jarvis in this whole long thing. He didn't even mean to say it. He could have just called it ruthless himself, but that's not really what I have to say about Larry, but fine. That's Time Inc. That's what it is. There's a new editor of Time this week, and she was asked whether Time would ever not appear in print, and she said, no, it'll always be in print.
I just want to point out if you listen to the TED, I think it's called the TED Radio Hour or something like that. NPR's been doing this series on TED Talks, and then they bring in the person that did the TED Talk and do an interview. So they did an interview with Sebastian Thrun on this topic. He's the one that kind of done a lot of work with autonomous vehicles, and of course works at Google, and now is doing Udacity and all this stuff. But there's a great article or interview if you want to listen to it. He talks about this exact point. 10 years from now, it could be that I forget how many people die on highway accidents, but it's like 80 million or something crazy. And he said that 10 years from now we could maybe not wipe that out, but certainly reduce it down to a lot less than it is now if we have autonomous vehicles making these decisions for us and avoid a lot of the distractions that we have when we're on the road. And also avoid problems that other people are making. So it's not you could be a great driver, somebody else causes a problem and you get killed, right? So anyway, if you want to hear that, I would highly recommend it. It was very interesting, and it was exactly on this topic about Google solving death.
Yeah, there's another great part in that timepiece where they were talking about Google Glass, and they were talking about how one of the complaints about Google Glass is that there's this fear that people around you are being recorded, and it doesn't really look good on your face. And I think it was Paige. It said something like, we're not going to not develop a product because of social norms. That's not a good enough reason, right? Like if we have a good reason to make a product, like we have to think beyond the initial sort of discomfort around social norms, the fact that social norms don't exist around this thing, and see where it goes. He's like, I'm not proposing that Google creates or dictates new social norms. I'm just saying that that's not a good enough reason not to try something. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That makes sense. Although, it goes back to the whole Google Island thing where back at I.O., I don't know if you remember him saying that, he wishes there was a safe space, like a Burning Man type situation where you could try things that would be completely socially unacceptable or maybe even illegal in sort of real society, but that there should be a testing ground for that kind of thing. Which sounded really wacky at the time, but it was like, it makes sense, right?
Yep.
I'd
visit
live
that
there,
place.
Gina, would you?
I would certainly visit.
I would visit in my self-driving car.
In your self-driving car, you just program your car to take you there. Laws are just take me to Google Island.
Take me to Larry's safe place, and then I'll lay back and take a nap till I get there.
Yeah.
There was a story that I didn't put in the rundown today of a Google Street View car, different of course, in someplace like Indonesia, I forget where, that hit 3 cars in one day. It was a sad case of the guy hit one car and then he took the person to the garage and he was afraid it was going to cost too much, so he left. He was too upset, so then he hit another car and they got him more upset. Then he hit another car, and I'm waiting for somebody to say, "Aha! This is what Google will do to us." But it's just some poor schmuck. All right, onwards to Twitter. Twitter, we didn't discuss this last week, I don't think. Twitter, oh, I'm sorry, there was one more Google thing. Well, I forgot this. We didn't mention this last week. Google Plus Hangouts. Now that, because Leo's away this week, I'm using Google Plus. Shh, don't tell him. Don't tell him. It upset him last week. Don't say anything. But Hangouts have now added new features, so you can do things like run auditoriums on them and have questions posed and all kinds of neat new stuff. So I forgot to mention that before. Anyway, Twitter, also in the meantime since last week, filed for its confidential IPO. Under the new Jobs Act, or under part of this, you can file for an IPO secretly without revealing all the data yet if you have revenue under $1 billion. And so everybody is guessing that they've done that. Also speculation about the value of the IPO to the various VCs like Union Square Ventures and Fred Wilson, and also to Ev Williams, Bizstone, and Jack Dorsey. I saw one estimate that Ev, at the end of this, and Blogger's sale and everything else, would be worth $8 billion. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Good for him.
For a guy, if I hope so, because Ev ran Blogger literally in his kitchen. Everybody was gone. He was down to his last dime, trying to keep it going, believing there was something there. And if he gets a payoff like that, he's going to get a payoff like that. And I think he's changed the world twice, and I'm all delighted for it.
I agree.
Would you buy Twitter stock?
I don't buy stock in the companies. I mean,
if your rich Uncle Louis comes to you and says, Gina, you know all about this technology stuff. Do you think that Twitter has a big growth potential in the future, or have we already seen it? Is this a stock worth betting on in any case?
For the long term, yes, I think so, but not in the next 5 years.
Aaron?
But you shouldn't take investing advice from me.
Nor from me. I'd be very clear.
I mean, I think this is one of those risky purchases, right? For a stock. I mean, if you're if you have some money and you want to take a risk, then this might be something I would do. But I think it is a risk if you look at what's happened to things like MySpace and other companies that grew. I think Groupon and some of the other ones. I don't know. I think it's a risky bet, but I know there are people out there that like to take risks, and I think that this signifies a huge change for Twitter. Right now, they're going to have to tell shareholders what they're doing, and prove their value to shareholders and attract investors. So, I mean, it's just a big company shift, right? First, you're doing all these things and that are really cool, technically cool, and where you're making these decisions for a private company, and now all of a sudden, we've got other constituents we got to worry about. We got to worry about shareholders. We got to worry about trying to get people to buy stock. And I think that it could be a diversion for them, much in the way it was a diversion for Facebook.
Here's a question for both of you. So I'm an avid, addicted, help me please Twitter user, right? And I go through all this stuff. I use it constantly. I use Twitter on Android. I use TweetDeck on my Chromebook. I don't know that I've ever see Twitter ads. Do you?
Oh, you don't see like promoted tweets or suggested people to follow?
But I don't go to that. I look at my list. You look
at your home timeline.
Somewhat, but more I look at the list. I certainly look at my ego feed of what people are saying about me.
Yep.
Me.
I've actually seen quite a few ads for like the Chromebook. I've seen Google promoted tweets about when the Chromebook launched or when the Nexus 7 launched. But mostly on the web. It's funny because sometimes I'll see tweets that are that say promoted by such and such, but I just kind of scroll by them. They're not that distracting, but I definitely do see them. You don't see them at all, Jeff?
I don't, and in any case, it's hard to imagine how they're even getting $1 billion revenue. I mean, if they are, I'm believing that they're getting somewhere near that. Then obviously this is the right time and the ripe time for an IPO. That means the business is growing and it's doing well. There's a lot more growth potential. It's funny. You when you saw Google's ad strategy, you really sensed what it was. You saw it all the time. You understood the wisdom of it and the ways it was new and it was smart. Facebook has struggled a couple times to figure one out, but you certainly saw visibly what their ad strategy was as it went. YouTube, same question. How are they going to put on pre-rolls? How are they going to put ads around it? There was very, very visible. Twitter, for whatever, Twitter is always a mysterious company to me. I think they're always good guys, and maybe they purposely make advertising as subtle as they can. Maybe they don't have as much as I think. I don't know, but it's just not right in front of me when I use Twitter.
I see promoted tweets. I don't use Twitter very often, to be honest. I publish everything to Twitter, but I don't go there as a source of information very often. I saw a promoted tweet by this guy complaining about British Airways recently. Did you guys cover that last week?
Oh yeah, we did. We did cover that. The guy that complained about the way his baggage was handled. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've seen a promoted tweet by a friend of mine who was promoting his ebook. He had clearly purchased, a way to promote his tweet. I mean, I think I get emails from Twitter saying, "Hey, promote your brand on Twitter." Like I have, my blog has a Twitter feed, and it's like, "Hey, purchase advertising here at Twitter." I mean, it could be that Twitter's trying to be the way to advertise for not big companies, but for individuals. I agree with Jeff. It's not nearly as overt as the very clear sort of blue sponsored links in Google search results, and it doesn't happen very often. In fact, I mean, I'm not signed into Twitter at the moment, and I just did a search for the Nexus 7 of the Chromebook because I recall seeing some of those promoted, and I'm not seeing promoted tweets in those. I have definitely seen Starbucks promoted tweets. And I'm not seeing them now, but right. So Jeff, you're saying that because their business model is still really questionable, or at least just not visible, that makes you hesitant about an investment because their revenue revenue doesn't seem obvious.
It's more that I just can't figure it out sometimes. I mean, I used to joke about it not having a business model. I used to joke Fred Wilson about this, and clearly it does have one now. And it is advertising. They are figuring out new advertising models. No, it's more that I'm puzzled that it's either so subtle I don't see it, or there's less of it that I don't see it.
Right.
And neither is necessarily bad at all. In fact, maybe it's good that it's not constantly in my face. Maybe they're making money and I don't even know it, except that I don't think I've discovered any products through Twitter ads. I don't think I've discovered any, that anybody's advertised to me successfully through Twitter.
Yeah.
So I just find that interesting.
It's confusing to me too, and I think they're going to really have to make this case, obviously. Right? This is going to have to be something that they get much. They've been a little bit private about this in the past, and I think obviously now it's going to have to be a lot more public, especially with investors. But I mean, maybe you can help them out, Jeff, with the promoted tweets by taking your case against Verizon and purchasing a promoted tweet against Verizon LTE, or asking them to support the Nexus 7.
I want to get a Kickstarter for a march on Verizon's headquarters.
There you go. Part of the, if you contribute $10, Jeff will buy a promoted tweet to a million people talking about this.
I'm pretty sure Verizon's U.S. headquarters are about 3 miles from my house, by the way.
Ooh. Get out the eggs. Get out the eggs.
Go and knock on the guard shack.
You need a case of toilet paper.
Virtual toilet paper. But you're right, Aaron. You raised another important point. Is what's going to happen with this IPO is that there's going to be more probing into Twitter, and there's going to be data that's going to come out that's very interesting. One story said that and this is a rumor, we don't know that it's true, Twitter's internal 2013 growth target was 400 million users, and says these sources, unnamed, that it's now at 240 million. So people are saying, who knows? The other thing I saw yesterday was the number of fake accounts will be a question mark. And I've long said that when I tweet stuff, you think that 122,000 people see every tweet. And of course, the proportion of actually seen tweets, even just seen, is small because all kinds of stuff that goes by my feed I don't see. So, but it's kind of counted. Oh, I've got this many followers. I've got this much stuff. It kind of goes back to the days of hits on the web, and there's real stats to come out. Now, none of that takes away from the power of Twitter, nor that it's still pretty niche as a product. It's changed the world. It's a big deal. It's on every network TV show. It's all over. It's clearly a success. It's clearly part of the culture. But there's going to be some really interesting studies, I think, be able to come out now about the numbers behind Twitter.
Yeah, agreed. And in fact, they just made a recent change for verified Twitter users. I'm verified. Jeff, I think you're verified as well. So we get to see this in your mentions tab. And I actually found this. I have mixed feelings about this. In your mentions tab, you can say, just show me interactions or replies or mentions that I've gotten from other verified users. Ooh. So only verified users can filter their mentions by discussions with other verified users, which I really don't like because it feels like you're creating this elite layer of special people on Twitter. It's
Studio 54.
Yes,
of course, a reference that doesn't mean anything to you, probably.
there's this velvet rope thing. And the reason why I don't like it is mostly because Twitter has been extremely opaque about why or who gets to be verified, right? For a while there, it was, this is for people who have a big enough profile that they have to deal with fake accounts being created for them. I've never had a problem with a fake account. I don't know why or how I got verified. There are people who are certainly much more well-known than me and more deserving and have more followers who I know who are not verified. That verification blue check mark has become some signifier of something or other. I know people who desperately want it, even though it really doesn't give you anything special, but this changes that, right? So now, I've got access to something that other people don't. And the fact that I'd want to filter my mentions, I mean, the whole point of Twitter is that you can address someone and assume that they're going to see it in their mentions, right? But this idea that you can filter of course, people use different clients and not everyone is reading every single thing, but it's this idea that only the people on the list can access me. I don't love that.
I agree with you, Gina.
I don't love that. But I wonder if this sort of, turning verified users into this elite club of people who, I don't know, the Twitter gods decided to touch with the blue check mark, if this is going to be their answer to, the question about
Black
fake accounts or fake
card.
follows. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, this goes back to their whole celebrity, Twitter's always catered to celebrity. It's part of the reason why they've been so popular and why hashtags are on TV. I mean, celebrities use it, and the verified check mark, I think, started for them, but now is kind of filtered down to kind of random, other random people that for whatever reason get it. So I looked at my verified filtered mentions, and there were very few there. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of verified people, but I'd much rather look at my regular Connect mentions.
Is there anything else on Twitter here? No, back to Ev Williams for a minute. Just to mention, we mentioned him before in Changing the World, is that Ev is not a secretive guy, but he's a quiet guy. Ironic, considering what he's done in life, is to create all these ways that people can scream to the world. But he did talk in a fascinating interview, I thought, about his plans for Medium and the future of media. And his big notion was that we are too addicted to news and we need to be more addicted to ideas. And that's what he thinks Medium does. Whether it succeeds or not, we'll have to see over time. But it's an interesting, and I'm not sure I fully understand how the various elements of Medium add up to that. I'd love to hear his rationale about that. But I think it's an important idea that we get so tied up, and it's funny. Twitter caused a lot of this. Twitter at least made it worse, where we're constantly what's new, what's the latest, give me all the latest, and it doesn't really inform us. It doesn't really get us anywhere. And instead, we'd be better off if we spend a little time with an idea and scratched our heads about that. Then that's what he's trying to do with Medium. So maybe he's trying to make up for Twitter in a way, but it's an interesting view.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Medium is really this sort of, it's the opposite of Twitter, and that it's long form writing. It's more fully baked ideas. Maybe this is Ev's way. It's kind of really the opposite of Twitter. I think that Medium is very much a product in progress. I think that there's a lot of iterating going on there.
Yes.
I think that we were involved in a Twitter conversation that Ev kind of responded to, and we were talking about. Yeah, there have been a few essays published on Medium, which has turned out to be kind of Silicon Valley focused. Although you write for Medium, but there's some people who get paid to write on Medium, and some people don't. There's some editors of collections who get paid, and some people who don't. And yeah, that one guy who was a total tool who wrote this essay that was just sort of, I don't know, it was sort of sexist and just kind of dumb, and there was this kind of firestorm about it. There's this weird sort of Silicon Valley bro thing going on Medium, and then and we were, it was me and Anil, we were saying to Ed, why don't you disclose? Why doesn't Medium disclose who gets paid and who doesn't? And he said, well, why is that important? And it's well, Medium is this weird thing where it's it's not clear that it's user generated content. It seems like there's an overarching editorial voice, in that there are collections. But it would be useful to know who's speaking. And he said, I don't and I think you made the point, Jeff, that it's surprising, right? That people are surprised. They don't really know what to expect. And I think he said, well, I like to surprise people.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly where he said, which I love that. What's fascinating about Medium to me, and this is really wonkish in the media world, but it's the first attempt I've really seen I've always said, and I say to my students, you're either B2B or B2C. You're either a platform or you're a product. If you're a platform, you enable products. If you're a product, you use platforms. And Medium is trying to be both. Medium is trying to be a platform where lots of people can come in and can use it in various ways. And Ev is quick to say there's crap on Medium, just like there's crap on Twitter and there's crap on TV. I'm not cleaning up all the crap, but I'm trying to encourage good stuff there. And so thus he's trying to create a brand around, I guess, ideas. And so at the same time, he's a product. But he's a product he doesn't fully control. He encourages in some way. And that's I think, that part of the, if you're looking for that Ev little light bulb in there and try to see where the insight is, that may not be it, but I'm starting to think that maybe that's it, that he's trying to bridge that gap between platform and product. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. It's a tough line to toe. Part of me is like, well, be one or the other, because those are the two models that we've had. But I'm also a big believer, particularly around community management, that anyone can contribute, but you have leaders, or you seed the community with good actors, right? To set the tone and to set an example, right? So if Medium is paying certain writers, or is commissioning certain writers, or is asking certain writers like you, Jeff, to contribute, and they're creating a platform which is clearly, it's beautiful and it's easy to use, and it is kind of even though you can write for it for free, it's a nice sort of, byline to have. They're setting a tone of like, this is the kind of content that we want. This is the kind of thing that we're looking for. And even just the whole look and feel, it's very clean. The typography is beautiful, and the layout. So yeah, it's interesting. What they're doing, and I like that. I like that, setting that tone, and setting an example, and then seeing what happens.
And trying to build something there. Hagrid Aaron says in the chat room that perhaps Reddit is trying to do something similar, and I think that's a good point.
How so?
Well, because it wants to be a platform, and in subreddits, people can use it however they want, including some pretty yucky, awful ways. But yet Reddit also has a brand, and Reddit stands for some things. It's caused them problems. It's caused them some grief because of people putting up scuzzy pictures of young girls and that kind of stuff on Reddit. Right? How can you allow this? If you have a brand, what's there? Well, no, we're a platform. Well, are you a breath mint or a candy mitt, damn it?
Yeah, no, it's true. When the whole creep shots thing happened, I think that it was really difficult for people to understand, why wasn't Reddit moderating this? Oh, well, Reddit's just kind of like the internet. Anybody can do anything on it. Well, but not really, right? Because it's all Reddit. And, they do moderate some things. They do take down spam. There was uncertainty around it. And I got to tell you, I really, after that whole creep shots thing in particular, I was like, they gave this guy a trophy for what he was doing in this community. Like, this is not activity that we should encourage and enable, thought police and censorship and blah, blah, blah. But that was definitely the problem there. What is Reddit? Is it a platform or is it a product? And it kind of is both. And I think Medium's kind of facing the same thing with this guy that wrote this, annoying essay that was just kind of crap. So that's a tough line to toe, but I like that, especially like that Ev is playing around with it, because I agree. I think he's kind of one of the good guys. He's had two big hips. I think that he really believes. I think that he really cares about the web, and so I'm actually not annoyed that he's going to be a billionaire. Good for him.
I'm not at all. I'm delighted. And I'm not saying, Ev, if you're watching, which I don't think you are, but if you were, I'm not saying that just to suck up. It's you deserve it. I saw you when you were starving. I saw you when you cared about your company. You've done great things for the world. So, and I also think that he'll spend it well. That's the other thing. There was somebody said, I think it was a Guardian comment as free pieces. The Forbes richest person list came out, I think, and somebody said, oh, it's just nothing but a list of greed and exploitation, which may well be the case. But it was interesting to look at it in that way. Who on that list is there because A, they did something that improved the world, and B, that they'll use that wealth to in turn improve the world, versus people who do just exploit us, like, I don't know, Verizon. Different topic. Box. I have not dug into Box yet. Box is a new competitor to Google Docs. Have you guys, and also Microsoft, have you guys played with it at all yet? Do you have any idea what it is yet?
I haven't, and this is different than Box.net, right?
Right.
Or is it Box.net? I don't know, Aaron, have you looked at Box?
I thought it was the same as Box.net, but maybe it's not. It's Box.
Oh, it is. It is Box.com. Yeah, yes. So it's, okay, so I thought this was sort of like Dropbox.
But it also evidently has content creation tools and more added. So there's an interesting, fight going on there. I'm because I live la vida Google, and because I'm on Chrome, I now live in Google Docs. I'm not really using Dropbox as much as I used to because I have that. but I loved Dropbox because it changed my mind about the cloud. So I don't, there must be more opportunities in the cloud and better cloud services and more specific cloud services. And that's the other thing about once again about Medium. Medium, just another blogging tool, but it adds value. There's another one called, you mentioned last week, I think, Gina, DraftIn.
Draftin.com, which is what
they were delighted. They came on Twitter and were delighted that you had plugged them, by the way. So here's another plug, guys. Giving us positive feedback loop works. Trying to add better elegance to the tools that exist, kind of moving past the Microsoft age. I mean, Microsoft and Google in that sense aren't that different. Google's simpler, but Google's pretty ugly. Microsoft has always been ugly. And adding elegance into creation tools would be a nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, there must be a business case behind this, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. I know that I can testify as someone who just joined a new company and is stuck in a Microsoft world. Like, I'm sure there's ways to do this. I apologize to those. I'm not a SharePoint person, but I can't stand SharePoint after using Google Docs because I want to be in a document with, like we're doing right now in the show notes, right? Editing things together at the same time. And, maybe my company's just not up to the latest edition of SharePoint or whatever they're supposed to be using, but it's very frustrating to have someone else has this document out and it's locked for editing and you can't update it. And I'm pulling my hair out going, why can't we use Google Docs around here? So I think there is a lot of space. I think you hit on it, Jeff, when you said that there's a lot of space for innovation here in the cloud document space. Obviously, Microsoft has gone there with its 365 platform, Office 365. Google's been there for a while, and I think that it's one of those areas where it's ripe for innovation. And this is an example of companies trying to jump on the bandwagon and make something work.
So let's look at the list and see what else we want to throw in here. So Hugo Barra talked about his life, and the thing that I found most fascinating about the story is that he pronounced the company. He said it's like show me, but it's shower me.
Shower me.
There was an R sound in there. Really. Did you guys talk about that last night on Android, Gina?
We did. So Hugo Barra, former VP at Android, at Google, now at Chinese handset manufacturer Xiaomi. Very ambitious plans. He wants Xiaomi to be as big a company as Apple and Google in the next 10 or 20 years. He says, if I do my job right, you'll be talking about Xiaomi in the same way. And this is pretty interesting, especially because I think Xiaomi has its own kind of Android build going on with MIUI, which is a new UI on top of Android. So it's almost as if Barra is building on top of Android, but also sort of competing with Google on it at the same time. And I don't know if they're going to focus their growth on emerging markets or.
Well, he's in charge of international, right? Not China, but international.
Right. So I believe he is going to live in Asia, and I think that he's going to focus on emerging markets. So this is going to be interesting to see what he brings to the table.
I went
and
to
how this company will compete
Android.
with Google, actually.
Well, exactly. I went to Amazon too, and I looked. You can buy the phones now. They're Amazon. They're Android 4.1, most of them. Quite a price range from very inexpensive to I think about $400. I'm sure that Verizon will take none of them. But interesting to see what could happen there. And also Hugo says I didn't leave because of the whole personal issue and all that he's been talking about this for quite some time. I think he also
actually addressed that.
He addressed it. Yes, he did. Which fine. And I think that I read between the lines, and I think that Ruben leaving and Sundar coming in, I think it was just kind of the time. He accomplished a great deal, and he saw a new opportunity, and he wasn't going to be Sundar in the short term at least, and so he went off to do something else. He has a lot of respect. People really like Hugo. He's done a lot of good work, so I'm rooting for him to surprise us and do some amazing things there.
It isn't shower me, it's Xiaomi. Just Xiaomi. There's no ER in there.
Oh, it's I see. So it's the shower without the ER.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Thank God.
Thank you, Gina.
Gardner.
Yeah, XAIO in Pinyin is Xiao.
Mm-hmm.
Xiaomi.
Okay, you were right the whole time, Gina. Okay.
So I think it's interesting that he addressed this controversy. I don't want to go into it. I don't want to be rumor mongering.
We don't want to go to
but, but I'm sure that when you've got when you're at a point where it's like, okay, I'm ready for a change, and then something like that happens as well. it's kind of like, icing on the cake. It's like, okay, this is done. I'm very happy making this change in my life right now, right? So.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
of course, this is a Chinese company. It concerns me though that the lead of the article is him explaining how to pronounce the name. Speaking of names.
Yes.
Anyway, but we have it down.
In time, Hyundai seems strange to us.
No, that's true. Good point.
But I think an X might be a little more frightful. Too many vowels in an X, could add up to too much for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Xiaomi phone. Anything else to run down before we get to our stuff and money? All right. Well, I just got word from Chad that Leo is crawling off a gondola right now. He's gone through a lot of wine. He's got a pizza in his hand. He's got a funny shirt on, and he's gonna lead us into a message from our sponsors.
Hi, Jeff. Chad? Yes, I'm back. No, I'm not really. I recorded this before I left. But I first of all want to thank you for doing the show for me. I really appreciate it. And they asked me to mention LegalZoom since I have used it. In fact, I used LegalZoom to set up Twit way back when. That's how we got our LLC. You know, it's interesting. I didn't need a lawyer. I just needed LegalZoom. Didn't cost me much, $99 plus filing fees. And we're still using, I have a lawyer now, a lot of them, and a lot of money out of the door. We're still using that LLC that LegalZoom set up way back in 2005. I'm not alone. Over the last 12 years, 1 million business owners have trusted LegalZoom to help start their business, whether it's a LLC, a Chapter S or C incorporation, if it's a trademark, a patent. They do it all, DBAs. You can even form a nonprofit starting at $99 at LegalZoom.com. You don't need a lawyer for this stuff. They're not a law firm, although they have this new legal plan. I really like this, where they'll hook you up with a lawyer at a pre-negotiated, very affordable flat rate. I love that. You can check out the lawyers in your state, read the reviews, the profiles, unedited reviews, though, so you know exactly what customers are saying about those lawyers. You get the right lawyer for you. Everything from he was no nonsense, he got right to the point, to he took the time to explain, what do you need? He took the time to explain it. I love LegalZoom.com, and I think you will too. Save time and money. And don't forget, make a will if you haven't done that yet. Make a trust. Durable power of attorney, health care, all of that. LegalZoom.com. All I ask, if you use LegalZoom, and I think you'll want to, use the offer code TWIG in the checkout box to get $10 off. And let them know you heard about it on Twig. LegalZoom.com. Please use Twig as the offer code. Thanks. Back to you, Jeff.
So I love that in the pre-recorded commercial, Leo is wearing his little Moto X magnet thing.
Yeah.
On his shirt. I'm betting it's lost by now. It's somewhere in a Venetian canal. Popped off.
It is.
Yeah.
That's why we love him, that Leo.
That is. All right, so let's get to our end, to our things. Aaron, you want to lead off this time with your thing, your thang?
Yeah, sure, I can, absolutely. So I think you guys have talked about this a little bit before, but I wanted to give everyone kind of a preview of Google Device Manager. So if you haven't seen this or you haven't used it before, it's Android Device Manager. This is something that can help you track your phone or phones. In my case, I have a bunch of my phones for my family all registered under my name. And so I can actually track, like if I want to know, hey, my son said he was going over to somebody else's house. Is he really there? I don't do that. But I could do that if I wanted to with Android Device Manager. And so I thought I'd do a little demo of this in case you haven't seen it or in case you don't know what this is. So if you take my screen here, you can see, where am I? Here we go. So the way that you get to this, there's a couple things you need to do to make this work. Number one, you go to google.com/android/device manager. And then on your device, you need to actually approve this in your device settings. So if you go into your security screen, let me back up so you can see, here's your settings, your typical Android settings. And if you go into security, and then down below, there'll be a section for device administrators. And you'll see Android Device Manager is listed there. And so you just click on the button to enable that, and you'll see what it gives you. Now, this is something new that you may or may not be able to read my screen there, but something new is change the screen unlock password. This just came out recently. In fact, Gina pointed this out today, that you can actually now, Google is making it possible for you to change the screen unlock password remotely. And unless your device is powered off, as long as it's on somewhere, you can turn it on remotely. And if it's not if it's not powered on, you can go into the web browser and actually don't have this. Let me see if I can do this on the fly. How's that? Can you get that, Chad? Whoop. Is there a better way to? I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
There you go. Yeah.
Sort of see it. So,
Good enough, yeah.
So this is the UI on the website. You just go to, like I said, the URL is google.com/Android/device manager. It'll pull up a list of all of your phones that are registered to your account. And you can actually go in, you can ring the phone, you can erase the phone remotely. And so in the case that your device is powered off, if you hit erase, as soon as the device powers back up and connects to the network, it'll actually go ahead and erase the device, which is pretty awesome. And if you hit ring, in fact, I'll do this with my phone now since this is my S4, you can see on my screen the map, you can see that I'm actually at the brick house. So, there's no trickery going on here. I'm actually here. I can hit ring and it'll say, do you want to ring your device? Yes, I do. And it should, come on, there we go. It should go out and it says device was rung, and there goes my phone.
With a really irritating ringtone, I might add.
A really loud, irritating ringtone. Yeah.
It is. And so you have to hit the power button in order to turn that off. But that's really helpful because I don't know about you guys, but for example, like my wife is always losing her phone all the time. And then she goes back to wherever she was and she's like, I don't know what I did with it. It was here when I left. It's around here somewhere. And so I can actually go in and remotely ring her phone and she can go over and find it. It's stuck in the couch cushions or something like that. So it's a really, really cool feature. And I used to use Pray. I don't know if you guys know about Pray. It's an application that does similar things to this. And I'm thinking about getting rid of Pray because this is so fully functioned and works so well. I don't think I need Pray anymore. I think this will work just fine. So have you guys played with Device Manager at all?
No, I just pulled it up.
Yeah, I enabled this kind of right away as soon as I heard that it was available. I feel like this is one of those things. I mean, it shouldn't be on by default because, of course, you're giving Google the ability to erase your device and tracking your device and all that. I mean, Google already knows where your device is anyway. But this is really, really useful. Because if your phone gets stolen, or like you said, if you just misplaced it or it's somewhere in the house and you can't find it, and that happens to me all the time, especially now that I got a baby and all her stuff. It's just so convenient, and it just gives me peace of mind. Like, oh, if I did drop the phone or leave the phone, or if I think the phone's been stolen, I don't have to start to think, oh, what should I I don't have to rush to a computer and change my Google password. I can just say, just wipe it, remote wipe it.
Yep.
It's a good feeling.
Absolutely.
Gina.
My tip this week is a little Android tip we talked about last night all about Android, but I found it so useful. I had to bring it up again. In Google Maps on Android, there's a quicker way to get to navigation for driving navigation, which is usually what I use it for the most. So in Google Maps on Android, if you search for a location, so I've gone into Google Maps and I've searched for Twit up in Petaluma, then you'll see the name of the place at the bottom of the screen, and there's a route button. So normally what you'd have to do is you tap the route button, and then it would give you this other screen, my location, Best Buy. You choose, cycling, bus, walking, car, and then you can just long press on the route button, and it will drop you directly into navigation. Which, by the way, it would take me 8 hours and 44 minutes to drive up to Petaluma right now. But just quick tip, long press on the route button and you'll go straight into navigation and you can skip a step, which is especially handy when you're in the car or you're, of course you shouldn't be doing this while you're driving, but if you're parked in your car and you're ready to go and you just want to get right to direction. So long press on that route button when you're in Google Maps and you'll go directly into navigation.
One of the things I love about Android is when there's an address in my calendar or an email or something and I click on it, I then get the choice of whether to go into Maps or Waze or something else. And each time it's a little bit different. Last Sunday I was trying to find someplace obscure in New Jersey, and I thought Google Maps had the better route. So I used that. But then turns out they didn't know about a dead end, and Waze did. And Waze got me around. Being able to go back and forth between the two, I'm such a fan of Waze, and soon I don't know if the two will merge, but it's great. All right, I have a very quick number, which is GigaOM reports from its conference going on right now in the UK, in somewhere in Europe. I don't know where. Felix Baumgartner's jump causing my, if I don't like bridges, you can imagine how much I love that jump watching that, but I did because you could not watch it. Well, it turns out that it consumed a quarter of the world's bandwidth.
Wow.
with people watching that off YouTube. That's just mind-blowing. A,
Whoa.
that many people came to one thing, and B, that Google could handle it, that it could handle a quarter of the world's bandwidth in one way or another. I just find that amazing.
That is crazy.
That is crazy.
That is,
I had no idea.
Yeah, amazing. So I think we have come to the end of our week. We miss Leo. We miss Lisa. We hope they're having a wonderful, wonderful time in Italy. They're probably just finishing a lovely pizza right now and a nice red wine, I hope, for them. And so that's it. So Aaron Newcomb, thank you very much. As Gina said at the top, it was so great to have not only a human being, but this human being, you human being, in the studio. It's just great. Anything you want to plug from your life?
Yeah, so definitely people should follow me on Google Plus if you haven't heard that already. Add me to your circles on Google Plus. That's where I actually have conversations with people, post some rather humorous things, or at least I think they're funny. So if you share my sense of humor, you'll laugh hysterically. And talk about Google and Android and open source and all that kind of stuff, which goes along with a lot of the shows. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook, by the way, so everything gets reposted there. So you can follow me there if you want to. And then I'm also involved in Floss Weekly. I did Floss Weekly this morning talking about OpenWRT, which is open source firmware for a lot of routers and other embedded devices that you can use instead of the manufacturer's firmware. Very cool stuff. And occasionally on All About Android with Gina and Jason and Ron. So I want to mention them too. Also, as long as you gave me the opportunity to plug, I would say if you're going to be in San Francisco for Oracle Open World next week, huge show, 45,000 people are there. If you're going to be there and you want to meet me, come down to the NetApp booth in Moscone South. I'll be there. I'll be wearing a NFL referee uniform. So you'll have to ask me about that when you get there, why I'm wearing that. But I should be easy to pick out of the crowd. Just come to the NetApp booth in Moscone South, introduce yourself, say, hey, I'm a fan. I like watching what you do on the Twit network or otherwise. And I'd love to meet people and say hi and shake hands and stuff like that. So definitely come look me up next week at Oracle Open World.
Yay,
Sweet.
Gina.
All right.
So there's only one thing worth plugging this week, one thing we must plug this week. Happy birthday, Etta.
Oh, thank you.
Right?
I will
This is
pass
a
on
major
all
one.
of Twig Watcher's birthday wishes. Yeah, I can't believe it's been a year. It's crazy.
When I was thinking about this, I was going to have us all start singing, but then I realized we'd probably get pulled from YouTube if we did because it's a rights issue for the song, right? I think you can hum it.
I'm very excited to hand her a cake and see what she does with it.
That's the best.
That's gonna be fun times.
That's
Yeah,
the
fun
best
times.
for 1 year old. They're like, my kids were tentative at first, and then they're like, oh, I can do this. No one's gonna stop me.
Yeah. Although I'm a little worried about what she's gonna do when she puts the icing in her mouth, because I think that it'll be the sweetest, richest, sugariest thing that she's eaten in her entire life. So she might be in complete and utter sugar shock
That's
by
awesome.
the end of the evening. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll get a good mom award for that one. But thank you, Jeff.
My own who freak out when what is all this happening here? It's not my normal life. What do you mean? There's a burning thing in front of me. What are you doing? So
Oh yeah.
But I know you'll handle it better than I did. So happy birthday, Etta. Happy birthday by Connection Moms. And that's it. That's, as they used to say on Twitter, that's a wrap. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. I know it's not the same without Leo, but I'm glad you're here. Glad you're watching us. You can watch us online anytime. You can come on live and see the fun beforehand. Leo would tell you right now what time it's on UTC, but I haven't the faintest idea what that is. I can't deal with West Coast versus East Coast. So all I'll say is goodbye. That's it for Twig this week. We'll see you next week.